Hey, I am Nina Simone, your prodigal parent life coach. Today, let's talk about 5 signs you're carrying responsibility that doesn't belong to you. Carrying responsibility that belongs to someone else can quietly become exhausting. And I want to be very clear, I'm not talking about being careless. I'm not talking about not loving your child or acting like their choices don't matter. I am talking about the emotional weight that parents carry when they start to believe that everything depends on them, their choices, their emotions, their consequences, their relationship with God, their future, their healing, their maturity. And before you know it, you're emotionally exhausted because you're carrying two lives instead of just one. So, I want to give you 5 signs that you may be carrying responsibility that don't belong to you. Now, it's not to condemn you, but to help you recognize it. Because once you recognize it, you can begin to release it back to God. Okay? So, sign number 1, you feel responsible for your adult child's emotions. If they're upset, you feel like you have to fix it or calm them down in some way. If they're angry, you immediately question what you did wrong. If they're disappointed, you feel guilty. If they don't like a boundary you set, you feel like you failed or you feel like you want to change it. But can I say this gently? Your adult child is allowed to have those emotions. And you are not responsible for managing every one of them. You can be kind, you can listen, you can communicate with love, but you do not have to rescue them from every uncomfortable feeling. Sometimes parents confuse peacekeeping with love, and we soften the truth. We avoid the boundary. We say yes when we really need to say no. Not because it's wise, but because we don't want them to be upset or we don't want to rock the boat. We don't want chaos in the home. And that's a heavy way to live. A healthier thought is I can love my child without managing their emotions. That doesn't mean you're cold, it means you're clear, right? Galatians 1 and 10 says, am I now trying to win the approval of human beings or of God? You see, sometimes peace with God has to matter more than keeping another adult pleased with you. They call that people pleasing, even with your children. Sign number 2, you feel like their consequences are your emergency. They lose a job and you panic. They mismanage their money, you panic. They ignore their responsibilities, you're panicking. They create a crisis, and suddenly your whole day, your whole mood, your whole schedule is revolving around fixing it. Now, listen, there are times when real emergencies require action. That's understandable. But every consequence is not an emergency for you to solve. Sometimes the consequence is the teacher. Sometimes discomfort is the classroom. Sometimes what feels painful may be the very thing that God is using to help them see differently. And if you keep stepping in every time that life tries to teach them something, they may never learn the lesson. So ask yourself, is this a true emergency or is this the natural result of their choices? Now, those are not always the same thing. It says in Galatians 6 and 7, a man reap what he sows. Now, that principle is not punishment, it's wisdom. If we keep removing the harvest our adult children that they cause, it may never connect their choices to the outcome. You see, a healthier thought is this: I can care about their consequences without making every consequence mine to fix. Think about that. Now, sign number 3. You feel guilty when you say no. This is a big one. Many parents know that they need to say no. They know they need to set a boundary. They know the pattern of their child. They know the request is coming and it's unhealthy. But when it's time to say no, guilt comes rushing in, and guilt says, what kind of parent says no? Or I don't want to make them angry or upset. Or you trying to be their friend. What if something happens? What if they hate me? What if this pushes them farther away? So instead of saying no, you say yes. And then resentment builds, stress builds, frustration builds. And sometimes even your anger can build. Because deep down, you knew your yes was not wise. Can I tell you something? A guilt-driven yes is not the same as love. Sometimes love says, I can't do that. Sometimes love says, I'm not able to help in that. You know, I will not help you destroy yourself. I will not help you in that way. Sometimes love says, I love you, but I will not participate in this pattern, in this cycle. In scripture, Jesus said in Matthew 5:37, let your yes be yes and your no be no. That means clarity is not cruelty. You can say no without being mean. You can say no without over explaining. You can say no and still love your child. A healthy thought is this: my no can be loving when my yes can be harmful. Think about that. Sometimes your no is loving, and sometimes saying yes, you're actually harming them than doing good. Now let's look at sign number 4. You keep explaining yourself, hoping they will finally get it or understand. Have you ever found yourself repeating the same things over and over? You explain the boundary. Then you explain why you set the boundary. Then you explain your heart behind the boundary, right? Then you explain that you love them, that you're not trying to hurt them or control them. Then you explain it again and again and again, but they still don't agree. They don't get it. Here's something that helped me, and that was to understanding and agreement. They're not the same thing. Let me explain. Understanding is different from agreement. Your child may understand what you're saying and still not like it, right? They may understand the boundary and still push against it. Just making sense? They may understand your concern and still choose their way. So sometimes the problem is not that you failed to explain it. Sometimes the problem is that they don't want to accept it. Let that sink in. And that means more explaining may not bring more peace. It may just drain you. Scripture says in Proverbs 29:11, fools give full vent to their rage, but the wise bring calm in the end. Sometimes wisdom looks like staying calm and not entering another conversation that's going to go bad, right? You have to remember that you can communicate clearly without convincing them to agree. And that can set you free. You are responsible for giving clarity, yes, right? But you are not responsible for forcing their agreement. Now, sign number 6. I'm sorry, we're on 5. Sign number 5. You cannot enjoy your life unless they're okay. And it's a hard, tender one, right? Because it comes from love, and you think, how can I laugh when they're struggling? How can I enjoy myself? How can I go out when I don't know where they are? How can I enjoy life when my child is struggling or making painful choices? And I understand that, but here's where responsibility gets twisted. Your love for your child does not require you to stop living. I had to learn that. Your concern does not require you to abandon your joy, your life. Your prayers do not require you to punish yourself. Some parents, they stop traveling, they stop resting, they stop laughing, they stop enjoying family, friends, they stop celebrating, they stop caring for their health, they stop dreaming. Is that love? No. Sometimes it is grief that never got permission to breathe. Sometimes it is fear dressed up as devotion. It's guilt that's controlling the parent. Scripture says in John 10:10, Jesus came so we may have life and have it abundantly. That promise did not disappear because your child is in a prodigal state, right? You have to remember that you can love your child deeply and still live the life that God has given you to live. Now, that may feel uncomfortable at first, but living your life, enjoying your life, is not betrayal. Living is trust. And it says, God, I love my child, but I trust you to be the God in their life while I continue being faithful in mine. So let's bring this together. If you feel responsible for their emotions, if their consequences always become your emergency, if guilt is controlling your yes and your no, if you're constantly explaining yourself over and over, or if you can't enjoy your life unless they're okay, you may be carrying responsibility that does not belong to you. And I want to say this with compassion. You probably didn't start carrying it because you wanted control or because you wanted to. You probably started carrying it because you love them. You're trying to lessen their load. You're trying to ease it. You're carrying it because you're scared. You're afraid. You don't want them to suffer because you don't want to lose them. You're trying to prevent the next crisis. But love without wisdom will wear you out. Hear me. I understand this. I live this. Responsibility without boundaries will drain you. So what do? You have to start asking better questions. Before you respond to your child, ask them, is this mine to carry? Of course, they're going to answer how they want to answer. So you need to turn that question on to you. Okay. Before you give them an answer to whatever the question is they're asking you that they shouldn't be asking, ask yourself, is this mine to carry? Is this my situation or problem to fix? Is this mine to decide? Am I helping because it's wise or because I'm afraid of the outcome? Am I saying yes out of love or out of guilt? Those questions can slow you down before you react. And sometimes that pause is where wisdom enters. Your role is not to control your adult child's life. Your role is to love them wisely, pray for them faithfully, and speak truth when needed. Your role is to set boundaries when necessary and to trust God with what only He can do. So, parents, this week, I want you to choose one area where you have been carrying responsibility that don't belong to you. Just one. Maybe it's their emotions. Maybe it's their consequences. Maybe it's guilt. Maybe it's constant explaining yourself. Maybe it's your inability to enjoy your life. Whatever it is, name it. Pray about it. Ask God for wisdom to release what He never asked you to carry. Because you cannot walk in peace while carrying responsibilities that belong to someone else. I want that to sink in. It had to sink in for me. I don't come on here with things that I just pulled out of a hat. Most of these things I've experienced personally, or I know someone personally, or I am in coaching sessions with someone regarding these scenarios. So parents, if this video resonated with you, if it helped you, I would love for you to subscribe and continue this journey with me. And here on this channel, we talk about faith, boundaries, healing, communication, and practical coaching tips for parents, and pretty much everyday life, So anyway, I thank you for taking out the time to sit with me today. And I want you to remember, this is something I've been really harping on in all my videos, because the enemy has a lot of us deceived and believing lies. Remember, don't believe the lie of the enemy. Believe God's truth. I'll see you in the next video.